Hi everybody, welcome to Model Trains. This is the Andrew Barclay 040ST shunter that many of you own. What I want to do today is I'm going away shortly on a business trip, and I just wanted to kind of get this out or try and do this engineering fix for the community, not just for me. I want to. I'll tell you what the design brief is in my mind. I want to design a bracket that is easy for anyone to fit. That is the design brief. Now, if the locomotive didn't have a housing and she was running freely without the body shell, then the bracket size and dimensions don't matter too much as long as it holds the motor in position. But we're extremely constrained by the body shell, and I don't know the internal dimension of that. I know that, if you look at the width of the locomotive and the height, we don't have a lot of room to play with. But we do have let's say, a get out of jail free card, because we can permanently fix it in place, which is, for me, that's last resort. I'd rather have an engineered solution. But that's not going to work. Okay. Well, I'm afraid we're going to have to go with the last resort option. I'm looking at it at, I don't know, 20 times magnification, and you can just see how badly it just has no strength to hold that in position. I'm looking to see if I can modify anything at the base of the bracket to force it in position. No. Okay. Well, I tried. So we're going to go with last resort. As much as I feel this is a bit a primitive fix, but I think it's the best option, because the bracket, we have a very, very limited amount of space. Yeah. I don't think you need to use too much. Of course, the important thing is not just gluing it in, but making sure the motor is seated where we affix this. All right, let's have a close look. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit of Accelerator to this. What this is baking powder, which strengthens the bond, or chemical reaction when you add baking powder to superglue. and modelers use it a lot in die-cast applications because it makes the bond like 5 times stronger. Right, let me just air blast this. Give me a sec. I didn't want any extra particles kicking around for ending up in the gear drive. I'm now going to prop this up and I'm going to zoom in with the camera so you can have a quick look. Okay, I've done a very, very simple sketch to show you what's going on, because sometimes it's difficult to see. I think it's better that I sketch it and explain it. So, as we can see here, worm drive housing, this is the section here, and the worm drive is there. Let me represent that. Yeah. So that's the worm drive there. So the worm drive housing, okay, so this is a black plastic block. And there's triangular edges on either side. So that pushed down between the 2 posts either side. Now, I've exploded the image a little bit for explanation purposes. But these posts in reality are much, much closer. They're right next to the worm drive housing. And as you push it down, the triangular section locks under the triangular section on top of the post. All right, but as I say, I must emphasize, this is an exploded diagram, right? The posts are much further away. So what I've done is I've pushed the housing down, locked it kind of into position, but because the posts are flawed, they're not really holding it too well. Yeah, so I've added super glue there and there. Okay. Not a lot, just enough to hold it between the 2 triangles. Right, so as I say, this is much closer in reality. Now, you could just leave it with the super glue and leave it for a few hours or so. But the thing with contact adhesive is it will dry like super quick where it's actually touching each other. So by adding the baking powder to it, it's adding an additional layer of contact. So there's a few things to point out here. By undertaking this, you're going to invalidate your warranty, right? I think you all know that. But then your locomotive will work. The other thing to note is, and you need to be very careful with this, is don't overdo it with the with this powder, right? This baking powder. You need to clean that area up and make sure none of these particles end up in your worm drive or worse still in your motor. So I've already blown out a lot of this, but I'm going to use a soft brush and just remove anything, any loose particles, any particles that could become loose. And then maybe I'll just add some, with a silver paint pen, paint up that areas to highlight there's something there. Because maybe, 10 years time, 15 years time from now, if I did have to replace this motor, then I would see that there's a connection there, right? Because what you'll effectively have to do, you will need to break that to remove this in the future. And that is why it was imperative not to glue a huge section, just a small point. Yeah. What I did, it was off camera, but I held it upside down and brushed down the way to make sure all the particles went down into the waste area, waste paper bin. But that's very clean now. Yeah, perfect. There's absolutely no movement there now. Nothing. It's very clean as well. Do you know what? I'm really happy with that. Really happy with that. Well, I'm just going to mark it. Okay, so I don't know if you can see now, I've just added a wee spot of silver paint just at the area that's been repaired. So we'll know in the future if we do have to replace the worm drive motor assembly, that we'll need to break that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grease up the worm drive now that I've been in here, and you know, I don't think there was a much on it at all, actually, in truth. I didn't see anything. I could see a little bit of oil underneath the drive in the sort of final gear, as I call it. But there was nothing on the worm drive. It was pretty dry. So greasing that up, I think, is going to be a good idea. Okay, so what I've done is I've taped them out of the way for getting this back in. So these are the brass pressure pipes that connect to the boiler. So I've taped them out of the way, so you can see from underneath the access area is clear now. It doesn't need to be this complex. Yep, some of that brake rigging's still getting in the way. Make the next one. That's it. Right. That wasn't quite so bad. Okay, so we'll peel this off. Okay. Final bits. Take them off. And the last one. Okay, so she's now on the track. Yep, and off she goes. But I'll tell you what I've noticed. I've noticed she's working, obviously. But I've also noticed she's a lot quieter now. And I think that's to do with the greasing the worm drive. The worm drive was a bit dry. I couldn't see anything in terms of any kind of lubrication, oil or grease or anything on the worm drive. There was nothing, no evidence of that. And now that it's got the grease on it, she's going really, really well. So I'm going to pop the scores on the board finally for this Andrew Barclay Accelerator model. You know, and I'm 99% sure that that will not detach again. And from here going in, we'll have trouble-free running of this model, and it'll just get a service once a year. So it just looks like such a simple design, but it's very effective. And I know that the history on these is that they had an extremely good lifespan on the railways in Britain, and they were exported around the world. I think some of them ended up in Australia as well. A locomotive that was manufactured in Scotland by Andrew Barclay. It's been so unfortunate the way that this fault was handled and managed, and that's the thing that disappoints me. I think I said this in one of my earlier videos. Every manufacturer at some point will have some kind of manufacturing issue or production issue. It's inevitable. The more things you manufacture, the chances are greater that you will have challenges to cope with. So I accept that, but it's how you deal with them that's how customers view you. And I'm sure AccuraScale's not listening to my advice, but this is just something that I'm sharing with those of you that are watching this, listening to this, and I think a lot of you would agree with me. It's how you deal with the issues that count, and if you look back at Hornby's history, they've had challenges to overcome in manufacturing many times, many times, and they've dealt with that, right? It's nothing to be ashamed of, It's nothing that you should hide from, And this is a key thing in this episode that I wanted to get across. If you were the representative for the company in the Chinese factory and you went to China to do the final sign-off, the sort of final handover for shipment, because you'd have to do grueling testing, as I am. It's exactly what I'm doing right now. I'm actually testing my steam locomotive that the worm drive is engaged with the final drive of the locomotive, and everything's well, right? And I haven't done a lot of testing, we've just had it running right now. But if you were in China, right, and the motor disengaged, would you release thousands and thousands of models back to, UK and to be sold all over the world? Would you take that decision to say, just ship them? But they must have, when they made the final production models, they would have taken a sample, right, and they would have ran them on a track for 6 hours? Would that be feasible? To see that all was well. And I would imagine within 2 hours at least, even an hour, or even 5 minutes, they would have seen motors becoming detached. Would you sign that off and ship it? I can't answer that, what your view would be on it. My view is I would not ship. I would not ship. I would stop the shipment. I'd investigate it, and then I would get the moldings checked and get them done again. Because it's the company's reputation at the end of the day. But if this incredibly small tip has helped you fix your Andrew Barclay on a permanent basis, and you can now enjoy it running on your model layout, then I'm very happy. So I've just ran her in, and everything was a huge success. I oiled the axles as well, and she's running up, I would say, running perfectly. So I just wanted to add as well to thank everyone that subscribed during the sort of Christmas time and New Year time, etc. Much appreciated. As the time I'm making this video, I'm close to 200 subscribers, so big thank you to everyone that's subscribed and everyone that watches this channel. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.